Join us on Coffee with Josh and Arlene as we explore the raw and beautiful tapestry of our relationship. Our channel is a space where we share our experiences of pain, anger, and hurt, as well as joy, harmony, and bliss. We're here to guide you from merely tolerating your partner to celebrating your union and oneness.
Discover new ways of communication, confront the past, let go of outdated beliefs, and embrace living in the present.
Together, let's transform our relationships into a source of strength and happiness. And so it is.
Whispers are heard, a symphony of love, like the song of a bird. You're my cup of happiness.
Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh. Chapter 5. Releasing Fears About the Future.
So, good morning, world. Today we have more than just coffee. We have coffee like we usually do. Oh, look at that. But first, coffee. Look at that right there. And my lovely wife made pancakes. So, apparently we're going to do chapter 5 today, releasing fear. So, we'll start with that.
Remembrances. In addition to getting caught in dwelling on events that happened in the past, we often walk around in fear of what will happen to us in the future. The fear of death is one of the greatest fears people have. When we look directly into the seeds of this fear, instead of trying to cover it up or run away, we begin to transform it. One of the most powerful ways to do this is with the practice of the 5 remembrances. If you breathe slowly and mindfully, in and out, deep and slow, while you say these remembrances to yourself, it will help you look deeply into the nature and roots of your fear. The 5 remembrances are: 1. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape growing old. 2. I am of the nature to have ill health. I cannot escape having ill health. 3. I am of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. 4. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. 5. I inherit the results of my acts of body, speech, and mind. My actions are my continuation. Looking deeply at each remembrance and breathing in and out with our awareness of each one, we engage our fear in an empowered way. I am of the nature to grow old. I cannot escape growing old. That is the first remembrance. Breathing in, I know I am of the nature to grow old. Breathing out, I know I can't escape growing old. We are all afraid of getting old. We don't want to think about it. We want that fear to stay peacefully down there, far away from us. This contemplation comes from the sutra in the Anguttara Nikaya 3, pages 70 to 71. Surely, I will have to grow old. This is a truth that is universal and inevitable, but most of us don't want to acknowledge it, so we live more or less in denial. Yet down deep in the recesses of our minds, we know it's true. When we suppress our fearful thoughts, they continue to fester there in the dark. We are driven to consume food, alcohol, movies, etc., in an attempt to forget and keep those thoughts from surfacing in our conscious mind. Running away from our fear ultimately makes us suffer and makes others suffer, and our fear only grows stronger. We must be able to accept this as reality, as the truth, and not just as a logical fact. Reciting this remembrance is not mere restatement of the obvious, but a chance to take in a truth that we need to experience directly. We can take a few moments to let that truth penetrate into our flesh and bones. We shouldn't just leave it to our intellectual understanding. Yes, of course, now I'm young, but one day I'll get old. That's just an abstract notion that brings no benefit, especially since our mind usually works to repress and forget about it right away after we say it. The Buddha taught that when we call up and get in touch with the truth that we cannot escape old age and death, our fear, and the foolish things we do to try not to feel it, will cease. We no longer act out our fears unconsciously and fuel the cycle that makes them grow ever stronger. I am of the nature to have ill health. I cannot escape having ill health. The second remembrance recognizes that sickness is a universal phenomenon. Breathing in, I know I am of the nature to have ill health. Breathing out, I know I can't escape having ill health. Siddhartha, as the Buddha was called before he practiced and became enlightened, was one of the strongest young men in Kapilavastu. He often took first place in sporting contests, and everyone, including his envious cousin Devadatta, dreamed of having Siddhartha's prowess. He naturally became arrogant, knowing that few people were as strong as he. But when he practiced looking deeply in sitting meditation, Siddhartha recognized his arrogance and was able to let go of it. If we are in normal good health, we may think getting sick is for other people. We look down on others, saying they're always getting sick from nothing at all. They have to take medicine and receive massage all the time. We think we're not like them, but one day we will likely also fall sick. If we are not diligent in contemplating this reality now, then when that day suddenly comes upon us, we won't be able to handle it. Our legs are still strong now. We can run, do walking meditation, play soccer. We can still use our arms to do many things. But most of us aren't making good use of our ability to take good care of others and ourselves. We don't use our energy for the practice of transforming our afflictions and helping to relieve suffering in others and ourselves. One day, we'll be lying down on the bed, and even if we want nothing more than just to stand up and take one step, we won't be able to do it. That's why we must see right in the present moment that, having a body, surely we will get sick one day. Seeing this, naturally we will drop our arrogance about our good health. The path of right conduct will appear. We will make good use of our time and energy to do what's needed and not be carried away by senseless pursuits that can destroy our bodies and minds. What we need to do will become clear. I am of the nature to die. I cannot escape death. This is the third remembrance. Breathing in, I know it is my nature to die. Breathing out, I know I can't escape dying. It's a simple and true fact that you are reluctant to face. You want this fact to get lost because you're afraid. It's painful for you to look deeply into it. Death is a reality that we have to confront. The subconscious mind is always trying to forget that. Because when we touch that fear and we are not equipped with the energy of mindfulness, we suffer. Our defense mechanism pushes us to forget. We don't want to hear about it. But in the back of our minds, the fear of death is always there, pushing on us. When we really face the fact that we will die one day, and maybe sooner than we think, we won't embarrass ourselves doing ridiculous things, keeping up the delusion that we're going to live forever. Contemplating our mortality helps us focus our energy into the practice of transforming and healing ourselves and our world. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of a nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. This is the fourth remembrance. Breathing in, I know that one day I will have to let go of everything and everyone I love. Breathing out, there is no way to bring them along. Everything that I cherish today, I will have to leave behind tomorrow, whether it is my house, my bank account, my children, or my beautiful partner. Everything that I cherish today, I will have to abandon. I cannot carry anything with me when I die. This is a scientific truth. What we cherish, what belongs to us today, won't be there tomorrow. We will have to take leave, not only of our most cherished objects, but also of the people we love. We can't take anything or anyone else with us in our death. Yet every day we strive to accumulate more and more money, knowledge, fame, and everything else. Even when we reach 60 or 70 years of age, we keep grasping for more knowledge, money, fame, and power. We know that the mementos and belongings we covet must all be abandoned one day. That's why those in monastic life practice not to collect things. The Buddha said monastics should have only 3 robes, a begging bowl, a water filter, and a sitting mat. And even these few things they also should be prepared to release. The Buddha often said that we should not be attached to even the foot of that tree where we like to sit and sleep. We should be able to sit and sleep at the foot of any tree. Our happiness should not depend on having that particular spot. We must be ready to let go. If we practice and are able to release, we can be free and happy right now, today. If we can't let go, we will suffer, not only on the day when we're finally forced to do so, but right now, today, and every day in between, because fear will be constantly stalking us. There are old people who are still very greedy and stingy, like Scrooge, continuing to hoard everything. This is a shame. It's not because they're not smart enough to see that someday soon, maybe in just a few months, they'll have to let go of everything. It's because covetousness has become a habit. Throughout their lives, they've been seeking happiness in accumulating things. Even just 3 months before they pass away, that habit is still strong and prevents them from letting go. There's a Vietnamese legend about a rich man named Thich Nhat Hanh, who was very proud because his storehouse had everything that could be found in the king's storehouse. He congratulated himself for having as much gold and treasure as the king himself, maybe even more. The king asked Thich Nhat Hanh one day whether he was sure he was the richer man. Thich Nhat Hanh was so sure of himself, he wagered that if there was anything in the king's storehouse that wasn't in his own storehouse, he would give everything he owned to the king. This is the arrogance of wealth. With the king's ministers witnessing, the challenge began. Indeed, everything the king displayed, Thich Nhat Hanh also had. But at the end of the day, there was one thing the king had that Thich Nhat Hanh didn't have: a broken cooking pot. That broken cooking pot couldn't be used to make soup, but could be used to make fish or tofu dishes. The Minister of Justice declared that Thich Nhat Hanh had lost his wager. Thich Nhat Hanh had to deliver on his vow and give all his property to the king. He was so upset that he turned into a lizard, always clicking his tongue. We don't want to become Thich Nhat Hanh, searching for happiness in the accumulation of material things. The Buddha once told the monastics to look up at the sky at night to see the moon, and he asked them whether they saw how great the moon's happiness was as it traveled in the vast open space. As practitioners, we should allow ourselves to be free as the moon. If we are attached to obtaining more and more wealth, fame, power, sex, and love, we lose our freedom. I inherit the results of my acts of body, speech, and mind. My actions are my continuation. The fifth remembrance reminds us that when we die, the only things that continue us are our thoughts, words, and actions. That is, our karma. Breathing in, I know that I bring nothing with me except my thoughts, words, and deeds. Breathing out, only my actions come with me. All the thoughts you have thought, all the words you have spoken, all the actions you have done with your body, these are your karma that follows and continues you. Everything else you leave behind. Here, we are speaking of inheriting not our parents' savings, but the fruits of our own actions. What we have thought, said, and done is called karma, which in Sanskrit means action. What we do, say, and think continues on after the act is done, and its fruits follow us. Whether we want that inheritance or not, it stays with us. All our cherished belongings and loved ones we must leave behind. But our karma, the fruit of our actions, always follows us. We never can escape it. We never can say, "No, you have no right to pursue me." Karma is the ground on which we stand. We have only one foundation, and that is our karma. We have no other ground. We will receive the fruits of any act we have done, whether wholesome or unwholesome, bringing mindfulness to the seeds of fear. The practice of the 5 remembrances helps us accept many of our deepest fears, such as old age, sickness, and death, as realities, facts we cannot escape. When we practice accepting these truths, we can realize peace and have the capacity to live conscious, healthy, and compassionate lives, no longer causing suffering to ourselves and others. Invite your fear into consciousness and smile through it. Every time you smile through your fear, it will lose some of its strength. If you try to run away from your pain, there is no way out. Only by looking deeply into the nature of your fear can you find the way out. Contemplating the 5 remembrances, we bring mindfulness to the seed of fear in us. The seed of fear is there in us, and if we don't practice embracing it with mindfulness, then every time these truths show themselves, we will feel very uncomfortable. Like ostriches that see a lion, we stick our heads in the sand. Using diversions like television, computer games, alcohol, and drugs, we try to ignore the realities of aging, illness, death, and the impermanence of the things we cherish. If we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by our fears, we will suffer, and the seed of fear in us will grow stronger. But when we are mindful, we use the energy of mindfulness to embrace our fear. Every time fear is embraced by mindfulness, the energy of fear decreases before going back down to the depths of our consciousness as a seed. Our consciousness is like a circle in which the bottom part is our store consciousness, and the upper part is our mind consciousness. The fear of aging, the fear of illness, the fear of death, the fear of having to let go, and the fear of consequences of our karma are all there in our store consciousness. We don't want to face our fear, so we try to cover it up, keep it down there in the cellar. We don't like it when somebody or something reminds us of it. We don't want it showing itself in our mind consciousness. Mindfulness is the opposite of this tendency. We must invite these things up into our mind consciousness every day and tell them, "My dear, I am not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of my fear. It is my nature to grow old. I cannot escape old age." When fear manifests, we want to have the seed of mindfulness also manifest to embrace it. So we have 2 energies present. The first is the energy of fear, and the second is the energy of mindfulness. The fear receives a bath of mindfulness and becomes a little bit weaker before it drops back down to the depths of our consciousness in the form of a seed. Just because fear goes away for a little while doesn't mean we have dissolved it completely. If we have a peaceful moment, a moment of meditation, we can call it up again. My dear fear, come up here so I can embrace you for a while. It is my nature to die. I cannot escape death. We can stay with our fear for 5, 10, 20, or 30 minutes, depending on our needs, and use the energy of mindfulness to embrace our fear. Being embraced like that every day, our fear will lose its strength.
We'll pause here for a minute while my wife does something.
Okay, back to our topic. I just realized, for how many years of suffering because of my fear, that was crazy. I mean,
So tell me more. What was crazy about it? And what suffering are you referring to?
a lot of suffering that I've encountered in my life. I mean, it keeps going until the present moment. I accumulated it with the fear, the judgment, the stories, and everything negative in general. So I'm ashamed of myself.
Well, you're human. And I hear you saying you're ashamed of yourself, but I don't know if feeling shame is helpful.
No,
I'm ashamed of certain things I've done in my past. So maybe that's, again, we're human. That's normal. We've done things, said things that we wish we could take back. And unfortunately, it is what it is. So learning to embrace who we are, embrace what we've been through, is stupid or painful or whatever judgments and diagnoses and various other, conditions we put on it. What if we just embrace who we are and instead of shaming myself for being unfaithful or an unfaithful husband in my past? What if, you know, instead of what I could have actually just embraced who I am? And I think frequently being dissatisfied with my life, with who I am, what I've achieved. The Buddha talked. He mentioned that they have that to live a monistic life, they need to have a three. He said three things, right? And one of which was a begging bowl. I have a problem with that. Like, what do y'all think? Do y'all have a problem? Oh, I'm gonna have a begging bowl. Like, I don't believe. Growing up in America, begging is not one of the top priorities. We see a lot of beggars here in the Philippines, and there's beggars there in the States. But I certainly don't want to need to beg. I believe a man should take care of his family. They should work hard. They should study and learn. And I also understand about being tied to our belongings, or being tied to our stuff, our accumulation. And I like to think that I'm not, and maybe I'm just deceiving myself. And actually, I don't have very much. Like, even here, what do I have? I have a bicycle, a television, and a few belongings. But in the grand scheme of the world, we don't have much of anything. What are your thoughts?
you have everything, actually.
Well, I do, because she's right here. And this is all I need. My beautiful wife.
The bicycle is well funded. The motorcycle is well funded. The truck.
What truck?
Your truck in
Well,
US.
we're not talking about. We're not
It's
talking
well
about.
funded also as well. Okay.
We're
So if
not
you know my
talking
husband,
about America.
my husband, I know him very well. Okay. He's taking good care for us. And he truly loves us, by the way. And he doesn't like,
Cheap.
yeah, cheap. And he doesn't like when he has money, especially, example, he has to pay the credit card. He will pay it on time. He doesn't like not paying at all. He's like that. And he saves money. Actually, he's the one saving money, not me. That's the truth. So everything, all that he has, like motorcycle, the bicycle, the truck, is all well funded. And our dog, Private, is well funded also as well. So I have no complaints when it comes to my husband because he is taking care all of us very well. I mean, he's giving me money for our food for a month and taking care of everything, especially for my mom. He's paying the house.
Okay, but the discussion was about being
Yeah, okay.
tied to
Yes.
our
Mm.
our wealth tied to the accumulation of things to, to performance.
I guess I just have to release the fear. This is a very huge and heavy topic for me since I was living in the past full of trauma, abuse, and it's really dark in there. And the thing that I've mentioned that I'm ashamed of myself because I heard the Thich Nhat Hanh mention about um, living in the present moment, and the fear caused all the sufferings. I've been suffering a lot, trust me, up until now, because if I think of the fear and the stories that I made, jealousy, and other stuff negative, it will make me suffer, surely. And that's the fact. But when it comes to old age, I'm not scared about it. And for me, but then again, how can I be happy if I'm still living in the past with all this fear and the stories that I've created and what I've experienced from my parents is really bad. So now I decided to let go. And again, I keep asking my husband, give me time. And he added patience.
I promised to give her 24 hours. I don't understand. She needs a little deflective humor. So, okay, so I hear you talking about your suffering and your past and your health and whatnot, and what we desire is happiness, because that's something that's been lacking in your life up until 18 months ago. And
I never had it before. Though I have it, everything what I wanted and desire. I have a family, I have a roof in my head, I have a great husband, you know. I was in love first sight to him with Vernon, but he was not available that time. A lot of story. When again, I am happy with what I have right now. I am contented with my life. I am not the person who wants materials.
so anyway, we're talking about running away from our fear causes suffering, and I'm curious what experience people have had out there who've run away from their fears. Death isn't something I think of much. Ill health is something I don't know if fear is the right word. However, I would say the most important thing above all else is health for me. And that's because when my health goes, and you had COVID once or twice, I've been knocked on my feet a couple times. And when that time comes, nothing else matters. When you're so, when that fever is upon you and you can't even crawl out of bed because of all the pain and the suffering that's going on in the body, life becomes very miserable. And anything, my truck, my bicycle, my stereo, whatever things I have, they become very unimportant, because all I want to be able to do is breathe. All I want to be able to do is walk down the stairs. And so my health is very important to me, for those who know me. And Thich Nhat Hanh talked about being arrogant about our health, and I suppose in some ways I'm that way because I feel wakes up in the morning and says, "Wow, I think one day I'm gonna be really, really fat and so out of shape I can't walk down the street." It just happens. We have bad habits, bad choices with our food, with our exercise, various things, and it compounds over time and adds up. No one just magically gets 50 pounds, 100 pounds, whatever, overweight. And I realize there are some medical conditions that occur. You could have a damaged thyroid, whatever things. Depression, right? That's a problem. Medicines that we take, antidepressant medicines in particular, they have consequences in the body. But barring those things, I'm talking about a person who's just a regular Joe Blow, not on antidepressant meds, whatever. So, but, look at the obesity rates across the world. The Philippines know better. So yeah, I'm kind of arrogant about that, because I'm like, I've been exercising. Well, that's one thing I love about the Army. So when I was in the Army, we had PT, and I got to do PT every day and twice a year take a PT test, and I always prided myself on doing very well. So, again, I see that I can get arrogant about health. That's my point. escaping death. So, do I fear death? I don't know. I don't focus on death, and I keep telling Arlene I'm going to live to 150 years old. So maybe or something. Anyway, so death, and Thich Nhat Hanh says it's a reality I must confront. You know, I never. My dad died of cancer. My mom died of cancer, and even when Dad had cancer, for some reason, I still thought he was going to live forever. Like, I couldn't really imagine him not being there. And then one day he wasn't there, and then I was a little disappointed. I have some regret because I could have spent more time with him. Some regret with Mom because like I could have been a better son, whatever better looks like. And so facing our fears. So owning our fears, facing our fears, and accepting our fears using the five mantras. You know, I don't really like saying, "Oh, I'm going to be of ill health." I don't. I would be nervous that that's going to bring ill health into my life because I do believe in the power of words, the power of energy. That you are what you think, and so I prefer to change my thoughts so that and I realize sometimes bad things happen to good people, and there is some chance. And a lot of times we put out into the universe certain beliefs and thoughts and energies, and it comes back to us. And sometimes we don't realize it. And so that's why if you hang around me, like if you're with me every day, you might hear me say something like, "Oh, well, I'd be afraid to put that out into the universe." Some people
Bless my soul.
say things like, "Oh, I'm so hard-headed." And then I might respond with, "Wow, I wouldn't want to put that out into the universe because like who wants to be hard-headed?" So, anyway, food for thought. What are your thoughts, actions, beliefs? What are the things you took away from the readings? How can you reduce the suffering in your life by embracing some of these ideas? So, anyway, I'm here to help people have a better life, to show people that you can change your thoughts, change your thinking, change your life. And it's not easy. You know, you can sound kind of glib. It can come across as like, oh, just change your thoughts.
Yes.
Well, we have a lifetime of thoughts. And so how do you change a whole lifetime of thoughts when you thought one way and then realize, wow, this really didn't serve me. So anyway, as Arlene mentioned, you can direct message us. This is being posted on YouTube, so it should have some kind of, you can leave messages in the comments, right? And so we're looking forward. So some of the ideas we've had are about having seminars, workshops, retreats, and we would love to know what is it that the people watching this desire. What are their struggles? What are their challenges? What would they like help with? We're not going to pretend to know. I know what things I've had go on in my life, but that doesn't mean it's true for you. So if anything here resonates with you, if anything is singing to you that says, I should reach out to these people and get some professional help from them, that's great. Do so. We can set up a practitioner session and see what comes of it. Anyway, so that's all for now. So that's a wrap.
And the reason why also that it distracted by the fancy materials outside, it's because 2013 I was on my deathbed, and none of the things that I've mentioned is important for me. None. They are not. Actually, I desire to have a family. I desire to be loved. I desire love. I desire care. I desire that can make me feel good. And that is why up until now I have everything in life, considering that I don't have BMW. I'm not dreaming of that. Very important thing in my life is my family. That's what I never had before. Um I was diagnosed with the stage 3 leukemia, and I was diagnosed also of having a problem in my breast, 14 lumps, 13 lumps when I was in Qatar. So all of those stuff. And now I have arrhythmia infarction. So I'm still alive. So what's the most important thing of me right now? even before.
Were you going to mention about the deathbed experience?
Yes, that night I was having a very bad cough and fever. It was very high fever, and I didn't know what's going on inside of the house until they rushed me to the emergency. So St. Jude Hospital. So that night, all I can see when I opened my eyes and on my bed in the emergency, he was just like cloudy. All I can see is white. And then I managed to close it. And the doctor and my mom, they're talking, and I can hear the doctor said that your daughter will only last 7 minutes. That's what she said. And I heard my mom crying that night. So I was scared because what about my kids? I worried about my kids. We experienced trauma. A lot of those abuse. That moment from my dad and to the person that, to the man that I married because it was the choice of my parents that moment. So and I said, what about my kids if I leave my kids right now? What will gonna happen? If I don't experience love from my parents, what more from my kids? So there was a light, and then he spoke to me. And then he spoke to me. And he said, my child, I don't want to take you. You have your kids. And I keep begging and begging. All my words was, what about my kids? My kids, they're made out of love because every time that before I got pregnant, there's always a knife like this. Do it or not. Very horrible. But that light spoke to me. Go back. I want you to experience love. I want you to experience happiness. I want you to experience. That's all what I wanted in my life. None of this fancy materials. And then I'm here, I'm alive. I've waited 10 years after that incident, after that night, 10 years. And then this great man beside me, his name is Josh. We met, we fell in love at first sight, and we are married right now. So and I said, when I first met him, it was just, wow, it's like my world is full of colors. And when I hear those, couples before, they would say that, oh, I was in love at first sight, I fell in love at first sight, and there was blinking, blinking. I don't believe that shit until I've experienced it. Then everything was just like, it's some sort of, the moon is dancing, the stars are shining so bright, twinkling, twinkling, and that the world paused for a while just to see him, just to encounter him, just to. When he was talking to Vernon that day, all I did was to stare at him and, oh my God, what's with this man? Until after a month, right? Then we finally have this peanut butter and apple date.
So what she's saying is we met originally. She was a site operation manager. I was actually looking for somewhere to live, and then, like she mentioned, I was not available to be in a relationship with her, and so no actions. If you saw that light, by the way, the power just came back on. No inappropriateness, no nothing, and I didn't actually realize that she had feelings for me. So that's very interesting. But then when I became available, I texted her. I told her I've always been on the up and up with Arlene.
Yeah.
And I let her know about how I became available. And I was like, hey, do you want to get together? And she said, yes. The rest is history. And but like she said, it was love at first sight. And here we are.
Yes. So now I have family. I have my husband. I have my kids. I am so happy. Besides of that, it's just I need to let go of my fears because it's not um helpful in our relationship. It can damage the relationship. And dwelling on the past is not necessary in the present moment. So I told my husband Josh that conquering my fear is not ignoring it. It's acknowledging that it is present, but how will I be happy? Because I wanted to be happy for the rest of my days, to be with him, to be with our kids, to our grandkids, and great grandkids, whatever you call that. And that is what I desire. None of the material things that that's not important for me, because I know my husband is a great provider. What he owns is what I own also. I'm just happy that my husband is not a cheap one. You know, he choose a product that has quality, not quantity. It is same with the relationship also. Choose the best quality, not the quantity, because it's freaking useless. Choose the quantity. So, I am super happy and super excited of my journey with him. That's gonna be forever. And no matter we met this challenge, so-called communication problem, communication and other communication stuff, yes, we did have this a day or a 2 day stupidity of mine. Well, he knows that, just like what I asked him last night, what can you say about our for our 1 year anniversary? Then he said, "Do not trigger my wife," which is very true. But then again, I was laughing. It's not my intention to hurt my husband, because if I hurt my husband, I've hurt myself also, and that's not my intention. I'm just unconscious of things that it's in my past. And also, and again, those who are suffering from their past, fear, stories, doubt, jealousy, and others, you can reach us, because my husband is a practitioner. And I've learned things also from him with the help of Reverend Trish and other practitioners from the CSL Metro. So I've decided to change the story of my life, because dwelling in the past, it's not helping in your present situation in your life. It can damage the relationship. So I do believe in that, and I am so grateful that I have my practitioner husband who's helping me along in the journey with Josh and Arlene and with our family. And I am grateful for our friends also from the CSL Metro, that who is guiding us, Reverend Trish and Reverend Jackie, Attorney Diane, a practitioner also, and others. So he can reach us, and we're willing to help you.